Ervin here. I'm a guitar player out of LA and I test amps for Bogner. And today we're going to be talking about the Bogner Uber-Ultra. Alright, so a little bit of Uberschall history. So basically have three different iterations of the Uberschall. The first one, old school, most people are very familiar with it, had a very clean channel and a brutal channel. And then you have the twin jet where the clean channel could be pushed a little bit more and get a little crunchier, and then the brutal channel. And you can also in the twin jet control the power amp section. You had a depth, a volume, and a presence. Now in the older Uberschalls, there was presence knobs in each channel, making you could really change the characteristics of the channel by cranking that presence within the channel. Now the old one had the presence knobs just within the channels. The twin jet had basically each channel had a presence knob, and then there was a presence for the power amp section of the amp. So you had a presence, a depth, and a master volume. Now this one is the most versatile of all of them. Now the way these got split is basically you have this section here is where you control your power amp. In there you have your two master volumes for your live applications. When you're playing live, you want a little different level for your solos and different level for your rhythms and whatnot. And then you have your presence, your depth, and the addition of the density. Basically the presence in here, presence knob, very familiar, but this switch goes with that presence knob. You get to choose what frequency that presence knob affects. In the U with the two dots, that's the Bogner preferred frequency. Then you have the hair plus. The hair plus is more like your boogie style frequency, and the hair is more of your Marshall style type of frequency. Now moving on from there, you have your depth. This depth, you add a certain type of low end deepness, but I like to say it's more like a 3D type of low end. You really kind of feel it in a way, not as simple as like turning your bass knob around. This one has like a certain, it gives you like a profound type of low end. And then when you go in here to the density, basically when it's all the way up, it's very tight, in that the way Reinhold designed it is so that when the depth and the density are in the U that is down here, that's kind of taking you back to the older Uberschall. Now it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. But once you start going back to talking about the density, once you start rolling this guy counterclockwise, you get like overtones. It gets pretty, the volume goes up a little bit, it gets a little more open sounding, I would say a little bit more aggressive sounding in a way. Moving on to the next section here, you got channel 1, channel 2. Channel 1, pretty straight ahead. You have two switches. This is a bright switch, and then in here you choose the mode. So the first mode in here is your Uber or Uberschall. Heavy, aggressive, chunky. Then in here you got your clean, and then in here you have your crunch, which is more reminiscent of the twin jet crunch that you get out of the first channel in the twin jet. It's kind of a more push, but it could actually turn into a bluesy push type of tone, you know. You got your boost control that works in there, set amount of gain, it goes, pushes it into a next level. In the Ultra channel or channel 2, you have your three switches. The first switch in here is the mode switch. That one is, you got your Ultra mode, which is the most brutal, hefty one. Then you have your crunch mode. You can get some pretty good rocking tones out of it, but it's a little more round, a little warmer in a way. And then you have your Uber. Moving on to the next switch in here. This switch here is the tight and fat switch. That switch works in conjunction with the Metamorph. It's kind of like a high pass, low pass filter, but not as aggressive. You gotta kind of listen and adjusts as you turn it. Now when it's in the tight position, it gets tighter as you go counterclockwise, and it gets richer and more open as you go up, gets a little more low end and whatnot. When you click in the fat, when you're in the counterclockwise, it gets full fatness in there. You click to the fat and you turn it up, and it adds a certain amount of high frequencies, upper mids. It's very cool. It sort of affects the overall character of the channel. And then you have your bright switch, or is basically 3-position frequency switch. You got your bright all the way there to the right. Then you have your focus, puts you more in the mid-range territory. And you have the doom. It adds a certain level of low end, but it also changes the feel of the amp, so you get a little more legato kind of action out of that guy. Okay, now both channels have your basic EQs. You got bass, treble, and mids, and each channel has their own volume and their own gain control. This model we're going to be looking at, this is the KT88. We also offer it with 606s. Think of that more like a drop tuning, a little bit more scoop, a little bit more bite in the high end, think boogie territory. And then you have your EL34s, which is takes you more into the British side of things. It's the mid-range is a little bit sweeter in a way, a little bit more in that familiar sound that a lot of people like. But the KT88, most brutal. It kind of takes all the frequencies up just a notch. As far as power modes, the KT88 is 150 watts, so it's pretty punishing. And then you have both the 606 and the EL34s are 100 watt, rated at 100 watts. So for this situation here, what do we have? I'm running the Zool from 14 in the effects loop. We're gonna have the aux with the California V. That's going into the Apollo, and the effects that you hear are universal audio for delay and reverbs, okay? All right, so now what we're gonna talk about in here is your frequency switch that goes with the presence. Check it out, right now is in the U, which is the preferred Bogner sound. Check out the sound. Now we go to Hair Plus. And now we go to Hair. Moving on to the channel 2 sound samples here. The Ultra, I wanted to mention, when Reinhold designed that mode, he was thinking also about drop tuning. Now when it comes to drop tuning, when it's a 6-string guitar with your regular 6-string pickups and you drop tune, there's a hefty amount of low end in there. Now Reinhold made the Ultra, so it shaves some of that low end. Now with the other switches and the depth knob, you can add low end back in a different way, so it doesn't muddy up your sound. Now we're gonna add some of that in the fat switch in here, that goes, the switch that goes with the Metamorph. And then now we're gonna add the Doom position in the frequency switch over here. Check this type of low end. Reinhold designed that way on purpose, just so that thinking of drop tunings. Now, interesting point that I want to make: when you have your 7, 8, and 9 string guitars, a lot of those pickups are designed with the tightness in the low end, so that the low end doesn't get muddied up. If you use those guitars, you can add that low frequency that way. You can also crank the depth all the way up if you want to be in that ultra mode. Now, if you want to have hefty low end and you don't just the normal, you just have the Uber, then you can experiment with these switches here. So right now it's just the Uber. It's a little bit less gain, focus, and the tie switch in the Metamorph. Check it out. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense, and you get to experiment for your own self with your own gear and the way you play. Okay, that's what I wanted to say about channel 2. Now channel 1, again, you got the option of Uber as well, clean and crunch. Channel 2, the crunch, think more some gain, you know, kind of Warren Haynes, more gain, kind of blues rock tones, but it can get pretty rocking as well. And then in this side, the crunch is more of a like push Stevie Ray, I would say. With the Strat, it can get pretty much in that territory. In case I don't have it from another spot in the video, this is my historic 57. It has Arcane triple clone pickups in it. Channel 1, Uber. It has the Uber, clean, and crunch. There's the option in here. Sometimes people would request, hey, can it have the 2 gain channels into 1 amp in the old Uberschall? Now you can have that. You have, if you put it in the Uber mode in here, Uber mode here, you have a little extra controls in that one. You can have one set up for your rhythms, one set up for your leads, plus you have an available boost in there. Now let's go through some sounds. Uber mode, first channel, no boost on, no bright switch. Now that's pretty cool. I like it when you can do a chunky rhythm, you go into a lead, and the notes still sound pretty robust. They don't go, they don't get fizzy, all right? Now let's check out the clean. When you go to the clean, now if the gain is up, obviously it's gonna give you more volume. So bring this guy back. If you want it to be more in the, you know, Fender type clean, you know, you can bring that mid-range down a little bit, and now that's with the Les Paul. Pretty cool, super clean, very nice. Now when we go to the crunch mode, check it out. Now let's check out the channel 1 with the Strat. This is my old Sir, 2001, 2002, around there. V60s, low peak, SSV in the bridge. Illich sound to kill the hum to a certain degree. Now we're again in the clean mode in channel 1. Pretty cool, super sweet sounding. Crunch mode, Strat, kind of a, maybe a little Stevie Ray. In between position. Pretty tasty, I would say. Bright switch, just so you can hear it. Let's try the Ultra mode now with this 7-string guitar. This is one of the Abasi Concept, the Legion series. Stock, Fluence, tossing Abasi signature pickups. And let's check it out, the Ultra mode, and let's show how you can add low end in a different way without muddying up your sound. So we're in the Ultra, we're in the tight switch here, and we're in the focusing here, so you can hear the way this sounds. Now check it out. Now we're gonna click in here your fat switch, or the metamorph switch into the fat position. And now we're gonna go to the Doom. Back to the Les Paul. This is kind of like a Warren Haynes blues rock type tone. Maybe you wouldn't expect that from this amp, but it does a great job at it. So we're in the crunch mode. In the second channel, we're in the tight, and we're in the focus. Now in the presence switch here, we are in hair. All right, check this out. So pretty sweet tone. Now let's say, oh yeah, I dig that, but you know, I'm gonna do a solo. You got the boost. You click on that boost and check this out. Pretty cool. It's like rocking blues tones out of this, just that section right there. You can do an entire gig, an entire tour. You can go into rock stardom, into blues rock stardom. Now I'm gonna go back to my Strat for another one of my favorite, I call it secret sauce, but it's just like another one of my favorite tones in this amp. Basically close to the same, but the doom switch, the fat switch, the gain at about 3 o'clock in there, boost on, present switch in the U. Remember in the beginning of the video I mentioned the density and how it adds overtones when you go counterclockwise, and then it's basically out of the circuit. Both of these, when they're maxed out, this is the closest to the power amp as the old Uberschall when they're both in the U. But I put usually the depth to 3 o'clock or so. And then check out the density when it's all the way up. Now the volume drop, I mentioned that before. It gets louder, so I'm gonna bring this down here. 12 o'clock. Now, let me remind you, we're still here in the crunch mode. Click the boost on, check out the density. Now we're like about 10 o'clock. That's what that guy does. Now we go to the Uber in channel 1, check it out. back in the Les Paul Ultra, U in the depth, U in the density, U in this switch. I got the Doom on, the Fat on. Let's check it out. This is the closest to the old Uber, you know? Not exactly the same, but close. Check it out. All around, great amp, ultra versatile. I just wanted to point some of those tones out because, you know, usually we get the amp for a certain thing, and sometimes there's no a ton of exploration, so then you end up just using it for the one thing, but there's a few things that are available to you in there. Hopefully you dig the video, hopefully you found it very informative, and it gives you some inspiration to keep chasing the tone, keep twisting the knobs, keep finding those little treasures in there, because there's a lot to these amps. Reinhold spends a lot of time sitting in there, tweaking, and delivering basically no bad tones. It's like very useful. Get those ears wide open so that you can tune this thing in a way that serves your purposes in the rock and roll world. Talk to you soon. Like, subscribe, comment, ask questions away. Hope to see you guys in the next one.